This is my 1996 Acura Integra GS-R that I just finished turbocharging. One thing I get asked quite often is how much did it cost me to turbocharge this thing? Because I did not spare any expenses. I made sure that all the parts I bought were new. Everything I got for this car was high quality. And so in this video, I'm going to be going over everything I got and what it cost me to fully turbocharge my Integra. Now, this is not a video I wanted to make. It was not cheap. I already know that. And part of me feels that if I never actually bring up the full number, it doesn't really count. But the money's already spent, the money's already gone. So I might as well be honest with you guys and show you what exactly it cost, because I've definitely more into this car than what it's worth at this point. So let's dive right into it. Now, before I start giving you any numbers, I'm gonna let you know that some of these are fairly exact. Some of these are kind of a rough estimate, and some of these are rounded. I did my best to be as truthful as I can with the price. I'm not trying to inflate anything, make it seem like I spent more. I'm also not trying to make it seem like I spent less than I did. I'm trying to give you a very accurate number. However, for time's sake, for content's sake, some of the numbers are rounded to the nearest like $10-ish. And I'm also giving you all these numbers in Canadian, so I'll convert it on screen to USD because I know a lot of my viewers are from America. So I'm gonna start off just with the turbo kit itself. And what that includes is the turbo, the blow-off valve, the wastegate, all of the piping for everything, the intercooler, all the lines as well. So this includes oil lines, bungs, couplers, all those little things. So the actual turbo kit itself with the turbo and all the piping cost me $4,000 Canadian. That was the biggest cost of this whole thing. And the reason why it cost so much is because I got a precision turbo, precision wastegate, precision blow-off valve, and the kit I got is made by Go Auto Works. I got it from turbokits.com. Now, I have to say a huge thank you to them because they helped me out with getting it as fast as possible, and they helped me out with upgrading my turbo as well. But that's why the actual kit itself is more expensive than if you were to say go and buy a eBay turbo for like $1,000. Now, in order for your car to be able to understand what's going on in the engine with the turbo kit, you need to upgrade your ECU. So I decided to run a Honda S300 V3. It's the newest version of the Honda chip for these cars, and it's made for an OBD1. And because this car is a 96, it was the first year of OBD2 for the Integras, which means I also had to get a new ECU itself, which cost me about $150 on Marketplace. I paid around $850 Canadian for the actual ECU. So just to be able to tune this car, not to tune it, but just to be able to, cost me around $1,000. So we're at what, like $5,000 now. Next, we're gonna go into everything that I did in the actual engine itself. When you turbocharge a car, these engines are not made for boost. It's not made to handle that sort of thing. So there's upgrades that you should, I'm not gonna say need to, but things you should do if you want to be able to run a turbo and not be worrying constantly about your engine blowing up, because that is a very real risk. Like I said, these cars are not designed for a turbo, and while Honda motors are typically quite strong, again, it's not made to be pushing 100 horsepower conservatively more than what it did from the factory. And so what I did with this engine is I took the head off, I machined the head so that when I reseal it, everything's gonna have a perfect finish. I swapped in a Cometic head gasket and ARP head studs. One of the biggest problems that happens if you were to turbo a stock Honda engine is so much force being applied on the engine that it actually causes the head to lift and the head studs to stretch. So swapping those out swapping the OEM head bolts out for ARP head studs is gonna prevent that, and it's gonna mean that you're gonna have a strong, healthy motor. Now, my goal for this car was not the biggest horsepower number I could get. I was looking for the car to make fun noises. I wanted to be significantly faster, but at the end of the day, my main focus for this car is to make it so it performs well on a track. And even though I haven't done a track day in this car with the turbo yet, that was my main goal in mind. And so that's why I'm only making 225 horsepower, because I'm running 8 pounds of boost. And with that, those two things in the engine, perfectly healthy. If I want to make a lot more power in the future, I will likely take the motor apart again, upgrade things like rings, bearings, potentially rods and pistons, and lifters, all those little things inside the motor. But as of now, that's all I've done on that side. And that cost me, for the whole head kit, for all the seals and everything to be redone, $380. The ARP head studs cost me $260. Now, a couple other things that you need to upgrade when you turbo a car are things like your clutch. So I am running a competition stage 2 clutch, which cost me around $510. I upgraded to a Honda 4-bar map sensor, which basically allows the car not only to read vacuum, but also it can read boost. So with the stock map sensor, it's not made to be able to understand what boost is. So it only reads to just zero. It only reads to zero vacuum from factory. So we swapped to a Honda, which can read boost, so your engine actually knows how much more air than atmosphere is going into the car. And that map sensor cost me $170. I upgraded to 650cc fuel injectors so that the engine can get the fuel that it actually needs for the turbo. Those injectors cost me $530. And then there's a bunch of other things that you don't necessarily have to do, but you really should do if you're turbocharging a car. So this includes doing tires. If you're just running like basic summer tires, you're probably gonna get a lot of wheel spin. You're not gonna have a lot of traction. And especially, like I said earlier, I wanna be able to focus on being able to take this car to a track day and push it hard. I opted for a 200 treadwear tire, which ran me around $500 because I got a good set off Marketplace that had never been mounted, but they were technically secondhand. With that, I also did brakes all around the car. I replaced the pads and the rotors, and I also did my brake fluid. That cost me about $500. And the reason why I didn't do a big brake kit on this car is because this car and these Hondas in general were factory equipped with Nissan calipers, which if you're not familiar, they make really, really high quality performance calipers. So the calipers on this car are really, really good. And if I were to upgrade them, I would have had to opt for like a 2-puck or something similar, which isn't really necessary for the power I'm making. There's a bunch of other miscellaneous things. So I got new gauges. Yeah, I got a bunch of gauges for the car. This includes my boost gauge and my oil pressure gauge. Those two together are about $300. And I also got an AEM wideband so that the car can actually read exactly what the air fuel ratio is and not just know if the car is just rich or lean. It gives a more exact number, and that cost me about $300. Spark plugs were also needed for the car. That was another $100 roughly. And there's a bunch of other stuff that either didn't come with the turbo kit or I just waited till last minute because I didn't realize I needed it. These are things like I had to custom make my own intake for the turbo. There was no intake portion that goes into the turbo with the kit, so I had to create one. I had to get a cat delete done. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, I got the head and flywheel machined. That cost money as well. I had to buy a bunch of boost lines and fittings. There's a bunch of new hardware that I had to get. I had to get the bung for my oil pan for the oil return for my turbo welded on, so that also again costs money to get done. I need to buy new hose clamps, and of course when you're ripping apart your engine, you're gonna have to replace all your fluids. So this includes coolant, engine oil, and trans fluid as well. So with all the miscellaneous stuff added together, that was roughly $1,150. And then the last thing I ended up having to spend money on was the tuning, which luckily there is a very great shop in my city that I live in called Revs Performance. So if you live in Calgary, go check them out. They got this car fully dyno tuned for $800. And then it was great. The car was good. I started having some issues. However, my wideband wasn't hooked up properly, which means that they have their own widebands that they use for the tuning. So that wasn't a problem for the tuning aspect of it, but it means that when I was running this car and I wasn't running it on a closed loop with the wideband, it would get a little bit weird. There's a couple of small things that had to get finished up, just with a little bit of street driving, because if you're familiar with tuning cars, it is very common that when you tune a car on the dyno, it doesn't actually accurately represent what the street driving will look like. So I brought it back to them a little while later, and they fixed up a little bit of the tune issues, which was completely free, of course, because I've already paid for the dyno tune, so it's you call it like a warranty of sorts. A little while later, I had them hook up my wideband properly and retune to be running on the wideband. So that was like another $150, $200 of shop time. So yeah, the tune all in was about $1,000, which I am more than happy with. All right, so adding all of those things up, that's pretty much everything I had to do. There may have been a couple of small things in between, but in terms of actual real cost, that's pretty much everything I had to do to get this car from running how it was naturally aspirated to running with the turbo fully good and said and confident enough with it to where I was happy to take it to California and back, which I just did. And adding this all up together puts me at $10,000 $700. That's painful. That's a lot of money. I paid originally around $4 grand for this car. So that is quite a significant amount of money, especially if you counter in the original cost of the car. And there is a whole ton of other stuff that I've done on this car. This includes this list doesn't even include suspension. It doesn't include any cosmetic stuff I've done with the car, like the wrapping. It doesn't include the wheels. It doesn't include anything else. So yeah, $10,700. Let me see what that is in American. That is $7,750 is roughly what the conversion is in USD. So that's a lot of money. At the same time though, it's a lot of money. I don't regret it. This car is incredibly fun to drive. It's one of my dream cars. For almost as long as I've been into cars, I've always loved the idea of a turbo Honda, specifically an Integra. I know if I go back to the games I was playing as a kid with cars and everything, I know I definitely have modified Integras on there. And yeah, I mean, love the noises, I love the feel. And I have to be honest, for the longest time I thought I was just gonna leave it NA, and then I drove a friend of mine's Integra that was boosted, and that's what sealed the deal for me. It was feeling it, hearing it, and I was like, hey, yeah, this has to get done. And I've loved every minute of it. Is the car reliable? No. Is it unreliable? Also no. That's why I've spent so much money to do this. You could absolutely get the same result that I've gotten for half the cost, but it won't be the same amount of reliability. So that's really why I put the money into it that I have. This isn't like a flex. This is more of just being real. So if you want to do this, you want to do it properly, this is what you can expect to pay. Yeah, so that's what this thing is costing. If you guys want to see a full price breakdown of the entire car, absolutely everything I've done on it, that includes cosmetics, suspension, bring back the turbo cost, everything like that in another video, let me know in the comments. I probably won't do it unless at least one person tells me they want to see that. So if you want to see that, let me know. And the more people that say that, the more likely I am to do it sooner. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching me suffer through realizing how financially irresponsible I've been with this car. And yeah, go turbocharge your Honda. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. As always, keep it fresh.